Reggie Miller, Hall of Famer, Turner Sports NBA analyst, on the call Thursday night. Mavs, Knicks at the Garden. I should go down there. Well, they probably don't want me there after the things I just said about the Knicks situation. Reggie Miller joining us. Reg, can you hook us up for Thursday night at the Garden?
I probably could hook you up. The rest of my Danettes, they may have to be waiting in line.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see the Knicks. How can you go into Dallas, obviously a hyped game because you were playing against Kristaps Porzingis, and win, and then lose by 30-plus the next night or 2 nights later versus the Cavaliers? That's the problem with the Knicks. I mean, it's head-scratching. And I know they're saying they're rebuilding and young. It's from the optics, it just doesn't look good.
But, Reg, even if they're rebuilding and they're young, then why the possibility of firing David Fizdale? Wouldn't you keep Fizdale to help with the growth and let this play out a little bit and have some stability?
Absolutely. And a lot of these players that they either have drafted or traded for, I'm sure he had a hand in selecting. So it's another reason why to keep him around, to develop, the veterans like Julius Randle, Taj Gibson, veteran leadership that can help some of these young players. But the problem I see with the Knicks is with most young teams, but the young teams in today's game, at least they play hard. They might lose games because of experience, but at least they play hard. The Knicks and their young players, at times, it doesn't even look like they are trying. And that's the problem I have. Give the effort. I don't care if you're losing, but give the effort.
Do you think David Fizdale's coaching on Thursday when you do that game?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I think it'd be a rash decision to get rid of Fizdale. I believe he'll be there Thursday. But, again, Daniel, as you know, it's the Knicks.
But, Reg,
unpredictable.
If you were a free agent, would you consider the Knicks now?
No.
Okay. Because we heard this from Durant, where I thought all along he was going to end up with the Knicks. And then he said they're not relevant. So today's player doesn't know what we know of what the Knicks used to be. And they're looking at that and, it's a great place to play, but it's not a great team to play for.
And in today's game, in any sport, really, you don't have to be in a major market to still have that, to help your brand. Because a lot of these young players, a lot of them are just worried about their brand. Theodore, you know that. Yeah. It's all about commercials and looking good and TV games and, how many likes we're getting on Instagram. So you don't need to be in New York, Chicago, L.A. anymore. When we had LeBron in Cleveland, he was obviously our number one star in one of the smaller markets, and he thrived in that. So you don't have to be in a major market. The Knicks aren't what they used to be in the 90s. And, you wanting to play in the Mecca and, having the stars and celebrity, it's not that anymore, right? So I agree with Durant, but I will say this. It will always be a Knicks town, though, because of the history until Brooklyn wins something.
What do you make of the Raptors beat the Lakers at the Lakers? What do you make of that?
That Toronto is better than people have given them, because you lose Kawhi, and then you have injuries to Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, but Pascal Siakam, who showed us glimpses.
Yeah.
When it was Kawhi last year, all we kept talking about was Kawhi. Sneakily, if you look at Pascal Siakam's numbers, they were fantastic throughout the whole playoffs. And he has emerged as their go-to guy. So this is a prideful team. They're well coached by Coach Nurse. And they've got guys, Fred VanVleet, again, second-round pick, 4-year letterman at Wichita State, knows how to make big shots. They've kind of tinkered a little bit of that starting lineup, bringing in Norman Powell. You still got Pau Gasol, who was a Defensive Player of the Year. So they still have an identity, and they have that championship DNA. So am I surprised? No. It was a back-to-back. It was a good game last night versus the Clippers, versus Kawhi and his former team. I just think they ran out of gas. But the Raptors, sneakily, are still a pretty good team.
Yeah, Lakers can't lose at home to the Raptors when they're 2 guys down. I mean,
Yes, but I mean, here's the thing: the Lakers, they're on top of the world because they go on that road trip and they beat Dallas, they beat San Antonio. There's triple doubles flying out the windows for LeBron, and they come home and lose the game. Now everyone thinks this is the end of the world. What? No, come on. This team is sitting on top of the Pacific Division or tied, and they're playing well. And they're 10 games in, and they're still figuring it out. I know AD is having some kind of shoulder situation. He's not 100%, and they're still finding ways to win ball games. Let's address the Lakers and all these other teams come Christmas Day and those games going into the new year, because you got to give a sample size of 20 to 25 games. That's who you are. That's how you're going to play, unless you had free agents or injuries happen to your teams. Pretty much that's going to be your DNA the rest of the year. So we got another 10 games or so to go for the Lakers to really start to judge them and see what they're going to be for the rest of this season.
Man, I caught a lot of grief from people, including you a little bit, with my take that LeBron's still better than Kawhi. And my point is, Kawhi is a wonderful postseason player. He never had a triple-double. And, LeBron plays more minutes and more games. He's more valuable to his team than Kawhi is. Kawhi is wonderful in the postseason. LeBron is still a better player. Why is this, a topic of discussion or anger or arguments?
Well, because everyone tried to compare, Kobe and, so many other players to Michael Jordan. Everyone's trying to compare players to LeBron. He's the best player of this generation, so that's what we do. But between you and I, it wasn't so much who's better, because I told you, LeBron will always have the numbers because he will have the games, the minutes. You're right about the triple-doubles. But in terms of coming towards the playoffs, when right now, the whole topic last week or the last 10 days was load management, which is driving me crazy. You're going to see that from Kawhi. He's not going to play either the first of back-to-backs or the second game of back-to-backs, because he is gearing up towards the playoffs. And what is more important, to have your best player on full gas for the playoffs or running on fumes running into the playoffs? Not that LeBron is going to be running on fumes, but that's just how Kawhi works. And it worked last year for them. But it doesn't always work, because if I remember right, Joel Embiid was on load management, and it didn't work out very well for the Philadelphia 76ers, right?
Yeah.
So, pick your poison. It goes both ways.
But Kawhi can't be the MVP, Reg, if you're playing 60 games, right?
I agree.
He can't be.
I agree.
Okay.
No, he can't be. I agree. 100% he can't be. But that wasn't the question, who was going to be the MVP. You're asking, who would I pick right now? Regular season, I would pick LeBron. Postseason, fresh, I'm going to pick Kawhi.
Just because of the load management.
Because he'll be... Who played the most minutes during the playoffs last year? Kawhi Leonard.
Okay. I mean, look, I can't argue with how he closed out with the Spurs winning a championship and in Toronto. I can't argue with that. He had a banged-up Warriors team, but you know what? He still did what you want a great player to do. I keep telling people, LeBron has never really gotten the credit that he deserves. I know that may sound like a hot take, but I still think we have looked at LeBron for all the things that he doesn't do or didn't do or couldn't do on the floor, instead of celebrating what he was able to do. We didn't do that with Magic, didn't do that with Larry, didn't do that with Mike, but with LeBron, I think he's the first true superstar that we really looked at through a negative lens. A lot of people did, and I don't know why. You went to Miami.
I think a lot of probably people assume too much too soon. The cover of Sports Illustrated when he was 16, 17, or 18, something like that, and the chosen one, and that probably rubbed people the wrong way when you still had the players you just mentioned still in the game, like Michael Jordan, and I think Magic was just retiring, and so people are like, the chosen one, what
and
about the other guys?
Yeah, the king.
The king,
yeah.
That probably rubbed people the wrong way. But I do agree with you, because I don't know if I could put him on my Mount Rushmore, but he's knocking on the door, right? I mean, he's probably You and I have had this conversation about the best small forward of all time. It was hard for me to relinquish Larry Bird. It's hard for me, but it's hard for me not to put LeBron ahead of him. It really is.
Well, Bird at his best, to me, was better than LeBron at his best. And once again, these aren't for hot takes because I don't do that. I'm not here to troll.
I know.
But when Bird averaged 30, 10, and 10, like his best season was better than LeBron's best season. And, Bird was winning championships as well.
Here's the thing. I don't think Bird, first of all, Bird never made it to 17 years.
No.
Bird wouldn't be able to do, even in Bird's last year, which I think it was 12 or 13 years, he wasn't playing like how LeBron is playing right now in his 17th year.
Oh no, but Bird had a bad back for probably the latter half of his career, last 4 years of his career.
Don't you have to factor that in a little bit?
Oh no, he's not better than LeBron. I'm saying Bird at his best is better than LeBron at his best. He's a better shooter. He's a better passer. He's a better rebounder.
That's my guy. You know how much I love Larry Joe.
Yeah.
It's just, you're talking about the best small forward of all time.
Yeah, I'll give that to LeBron, but not if I take LeBron's best year and Larry's best year, I'll take Larry over him. And imagine if you had today's three-point philosophy.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
So he's better at his best than LeBron is, but LeBron is going to be considered a greater player. And I have no problem with that. Not at all. You got Luka Doncic coming up on Thursday night. I watched him against the Celtics last night, and I've said this to this audience. Basketball is about angles. It's about getting leverage. It's about finding space. It's about getting somebody uncomfortable, where you can take advantage of them, off balance. I mean, you understood this as well as anybody. Doncic, who's not even 21, understands angles, Reg, he plays like he's 10 years older than what he is. I'm assuming he is really 20, but McLovin says...
Well, let me tell you why. It's because he's been playing professionally since he was, 14 or 15?
Yeah.
So he knows those angles by playing against older players and developing those angles. When I watch him play, there is such a smoothness to his game because you can never really rattle or speed him up. He controls the pace of game. And at that size, and to have that pity pat, and the separation we talk about James Harden's step back and how much space he creates. Luka is in that same category, if not better, in terms of step back. And when you've got a jump shot that pure and you're able to handle the basketball like that and you've got shooters on the edges, to me that's why Dallas is one of those teams that are on the rise is because of Luka, obviously.
Yeah.
But you add Porzingis at that size who can stretch the floor. Well coach, obviously a former coach of mine, and Rick Carlisle. But he is a truly, truly special player because of the angles you mentioned.
McLovin went on a rant a little while ago about the officiating on James Harden, and he, for some reason, thinks the officials are giving Harden the benefit of the doubt with all these free throws here. Is that a fair characterization?
Yeah, his free throws are up 80% this year. He's on breaking every NBA record. He's going to break the record by a mile for most free throws made in a season.
Okay. Are they giving him preferential treatment?
And I believe he just broke the most free throws attempted for the first 10 games of any player in NBA history.
Yeah, Wilt Chamberlain held that record.
I put him in that same category as Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan got fouled on every play. I tripped, hit, clipped, bit, stomped.
You didn't bite Jordan.
I did you did everything to try to stop him, and you really put it on the officials like they can't call everything because he's getting fouled on every single play. You say the same thing about James Harden. As much as he dribbles in isolations and one-on-one, and he creates a lot of space with a little bit of that chicken jab, but he is initiating a lot of the contact a lot of the times, and it's hard to officiate. So I think a lot of times he gets the benefit of the doubt because he's initiating that. I put him in the same boat as MJ because they can't call every foul, so he gets a lot of the benefit of the doubt calls from the officials.
Man, if he gets that three-point shooting percentage up again, oh boy.
It's coming.
He'll close in on averaging 40. I mean, he's averaging 36 now, Reg. 37-3 to be exact.
Again, I like to sample size of 20 games or so, but we're like 10 games in. If you had to pick an MVP right now, are you going with Harden or are you going with Giannis?
Oh, I'm not going Harden. No. I mean, I've seen he's a wonderful player. I just don't know if they're any better this year than they were last year with Chris Paul. I mean, I need to see a little bit more with that team, and they're guaranteed to disappoint.
They're 7-3,
I know.
top 3 or 4. And Giannis, they're in top 2 or 3. They're 7-3, but numbers wise, between the two, because Giannis is putting up unbelievable.
I'm going to
numbers.
go Giannis. I'll go Giannis.
I probably would too.
And Dame Lillard had 60 the other night, Reg.
And lost.
I know.
And lost. They don't look the same as they did last year. And I don't know, I can't really put a finger on it because they play the same way. I know they lost some key role players, but they just don't look the same. They don't have that same fight to them as they did last year. Last year they were the underdog, and they were going after the teams that had the bullseye on their back.
Yeah.
But this year they're kind of the hunted. After the success they had of getting to the conference finals, they just don't look the same.
That's a great point. Do you want to weigh in on bad guys in movies we root for?
I do. Look, I grew up. I loved Westerns, watching them with my dad. So there's 2 that come to mind. I always rooted for Billy the Kid, right?
Yeah.
I know he wasn't a great guy, and Robin Banks, and shoot him up, but I love Billy the Kid, number 1. But probably my all-time favorite guy. You ever watch Tombstone? Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
I'll be your Huckleberry. Even though he
Val
fought
Kilmer.
on the side. Val Kilmer, even though he fought with Wyatt Earp in that movie, right? Doc Holliday wasn't a great guy, right? Gambler, and so Doc Holliday is probably my all-time favorite villain in any movie of all time. Though, do you consider him a villain or a good guy?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. But, Val Kilmer's got Kill in his last name, so, he maybe...
I'm going with Val Kilmer, Doc Holliday, number 1 for the win, Alex.
Were you Doc Holliday in the NBA?
I was. That's what the whole thing. Not everyone can wear the white hat.
I know.
That's probably why I grew up loving Westerns. Someone has to wear the black hat, right? There's got to be bad guys somewhere. So I was I was Doc Holliday of the NBA.
Do you get booed Thursday night in the Garden?
I probably will. First of all, they have the nerve of them booing anybody, right? How the Knicks have been the last 15 years, I just tell people they're cursed. Never should have traded Patrick Ewing to Seattle, and never should have banned Charles Oakley. There's a curse. You can't do that. Those are 2 guys that were blue bloods, hardworking, that would do anything for that organization. You can't trade Patrick Ewing to Seattle.
Would you be the best shooter on the Knicks Thursday night?
Look at you trying to stir the pot. Look at you trying to stir the pot. But looking at the roster, I probably would.
Yeah, you would be. You would be.
Yeah, I probably would be.
I know, you would be. I care.
Can't wait to see the New York media.
I know. Hey, Reg, great to talk to you. Safe travels Thursday night. It'll be Mavs and Knicks at the Garden. That'll be with Kevin Harlan and Allie LaForce on TNT at 8 Eastern. Thank you, Reg.
Theodore, I'll be your Huckleberry, baby. Doc Holliday, Tombstone, let's do it.
That's Reggie Miller.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.